Welcome, truth seekers and freedom lovers. This is Makia with the Freedom Articles. This is video number 316 on Monday, May 11th, 2026. By classifying their data centers as critical military infrastructure or even military operations, the New World Order controllers bypass local zoning laws and secure federal funding. These data centers will become the backbone of the coming technocracy. When you hear the word data center, realize it's a euphemism for complete AI surveillance and control. Now, for the background to this video, check out some of my earlier videos where I talked about how when Trump was elected, he was making way for the technocratic order to come in, with all these tech bros that were funding his campaign, whether it was Elon Musk, whether it was Peter Thiel who funded J.D. Vance, the vice president. Trump's chaos and destroying of the old order is making way for a new technocratic order that is planned to be even more authoritarian than the current tyranny we live under. So Trump is really a tool to implement technocracy. He doesn't know the first thing about 5G or 6G or any of this stuff. He just thinks that it's good, it's all great, and America should push forward and win the race among the nations to implement all this stuff. But that in itself is another con. That's another pretext and cover story, because really this AI race is a fake race. There's really a lot of collaboration going on. I covered this in video 204. If you look at all the different ways that the US and China are collaborating on research papers on developing AI, every country, especially these top two, are trying to push this out. So there is no real race. That's just being sold for public consumption. Trump put out Genesis mission earlier on in his presidency to accelerate AI. And then in July last year, there was another executive order accelerating federal permitting of data center infrastructure. And that's what I want to focus on in this video, because these new data centers are starting to become very, very much in the news, but also they're obstructing a lot of people and they're getting into local communities, and people are getting outraged at what's really going on with this stuff. Just to give one example of many, all the big tech bros like Mark Zuckerberg and the big tech billionaires, the big tech companies are in on this. They're all building their data centers. They've got this public-private partnership going where it's dual use, so it's civilian and military, and there's huge parts of it that are cordoned off just for military use. And so this is one of the ways why and how the US government is saying, hey, these places are military, basically military infrastructure, military installations almost. And note the way that Iran attacked certain of these AI centers, these data centers in the Persian Gulf, because they were being used, parts of them, for military purposes. All the cloud computing, all the AI autonomous weapons, it's coming out of these things. But what I really want to focus on in this video is the fact that these data centers are going to be used to implement a technocracy for the population, even outside of their military use. They're going to be used to create this society where if you're a civilian, if you're just a citizen inside of a country, your government's going to be using them to know everything about you and to control you down to the last breath you take, the absolute finest detail of your life. So what's happening is that these big power centers, these big data centers, which consume massive amounts of energy, 5 GW, 5 gigawatts, and they have square mile after square mile, some of them, 62 square miles, some of them, huge footprints. They are taking up all the electricity and water of certain areas, and they're making the countryside and rural areas undesirable or even unlivable in some situations. And this, of course, is going to have the added benefit, as far as the New World Order controllers are concerned, of encouraging migration to urban areas, to smart cities, in other words, 15-minute prisons. This issue is really accelerating. It's becoming a big one. Just take a look at this infographic, for example, that Natural News, Mike Adams, put out. This is a rough sketch, a rough idea of what's happening with these data centers. And it is a global build out, because this isn't just an American or a Western agenda. This gives some estimates of, how much power it's taking, what it's going, but look at it all. I mean, the US is clearly going to be leading this right now with all the data centers it's planned, but there's certainly quite a few in Western Europe. There's quite a few in the Persian Gulf, the Arab Gulf states. China's going to have the second most in the world. Russia's going to have a few, and of course Japan as well. So Australia's going to have some too. So eventually all these countries are going to have them. But my warning is that basically the sooner these get rolled out, the quicker that technocracy is going to be thrust upon the people. So we have to be really aware of this. You can also look at this article if you want to see more exact numbers of who's having which, how much. And of course, this is a fast moving story. So this stuff could already be out of date, even just a few months old. But it gives you an idea of the pace at which this is developing. We have the latest one, the Stratos hyperscale data center, 40,000 acres, 9 gigawatts of power, massive thermal pollution, noise pollution, and light pollution. Yeah, these things are going 24/7. So even in the middle of the night, there's light, there's heat, there's sound pollution. 16 plus billion gallons of water will use more than double the entire electrical power consumption of the state of Utah. It's crazy what these things are going to be taking in. 2.5 times the size of Manhattan. Approved through a stealth loophole. Right? Here's another infographic if you want to learn about it. So, this has become such a point of contention that there have been many local council community meetings around America where people have come down to the community center and they've absolutely protested and they've said, hey, you cannot do this. We don't want this here. But, sometimes that approach works. Sometimes it doesn't. These big corporations and big government plans, whether it's public or private, big government or big corporation, when they're serving the New World Order agenda, they find ways to get around local laws. They find ways to get around community opposition. Often they bribe the county councilors or they threaten them. There's lots of stories where they've been able to push through laws that are hugely unpopular in certain states. So we have to be really careful and consider how we're going to fight back against this stuff. There are even plans to build a giant floating data center. Look at this report here. Silicon Valley AI boom may be heading out to sea. Tech investors are pouring more than $200 million into a futuristic plan to build floating AI data centers powered by ocean waves. A wild new approach aimed at dodging the growing headaches of building massive server farms on land. Startup Panthalassa is behind the project and is enjoying huge backing from billionaire investor and Palantir co-founder, who else but Peter Thiel, who's got his hands in this. He is definitely doing everything he can to bring about the New World Order, despite his apparent appeals to stopping an antichrist. Peter Thiel, who helped lead the company's latest $140 million funding round to build a pilot manufacturing facility near Portland, Oregon. And of course, if they get away with this and they're able to start building these data centers out at sea, then they're not going to be subject to jurisdiction and they're going to be way harder to shut down or sabotage. So, there's all sorts of problems for the local person with this kind of idea. Don't know if this will get off the ground or not. We have to ask the question as well, why does America need so many AI data centers? US is building more than 5,200 compared to only 1,818 in China. Leo Hohmann, his opinion is that this is due to the coming CBDC, in other words, the programmable money system. There's a lot more to it than that, but let's just read what he has to say about this. He writes, the only explanation is that the US plans to serve as the nerve center for a coming one world digital or programmable currency. Think about the computing power that would be required for a beast system in which every transaction worldwide is tracked in real time and entered onto a digital blockchain. Combine that with the social credit scoring system that tracks, analyzes, and assesses a grade not only to every financial transaction, but every video, every article, every social media post made by everyone on the internet, and every internet user being 100% identifiable by the mandatory biometric digital ID. Without a digital ID, you won't be allowed on the internet. So this is their plan, and yes, I believe that that's definitely part of it, but I think it's a lot more than that, because think about this. We already have AI being shoved down our throats in so many ways. Whenever you call a company these days, whenever you visit their website, you're being given an AI chatbot before you can speak to a person. People are using ChatGPT and Gemini and these big LLM models. They're starting to use them more and more. And they're already incorporated into the internet and life in a lot of ways. But the question is, why do they need this kind of space and to build so many of these data centers or surveillance centers? Surely it's not just to power AI, but I would suspect there's a lot more going on that's basically housing massive computer power to potentially create holograms or simulations or do a whole lot more in terms of perceptual manipulation and control of someone. Because to me, it doesn't explain the massive amount of money and water and electricity and the geographical footprint of these things doesn't add up if we're just talking about simply AI. I think there's a whole lot more to it. I think we need to be investigating this and asking more questions. And I want to end this on a more positive note. If we're looking for solutions, what do we do about it? Well, James Corbett did a video on this a few months ago, Starving the Data Center Beast. That's worth checking out. He talks about some local battles that had happened, focusing on some data centers in Tucson, so in Arizona, and suggesting that basically, we can look at solutions such as the 10th Amendment Center. The 10th Amendment to the US Constitution, of course, the power is not delegated to the United States, meaning the federal government, by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or the people. This is a big one that people often forget. We need to start asserting that. But of course, not everyone watching this is going to live in America, and this problem is worldwide. It's not just American. So there is also the other approach of the Blade Runner style sabotage. And the Blade Runners, for those that don't know, are a group that has been very successfully sabotaging ULEZ cameras in London and preventing the rollout of the panopticon, of the digital surveillance in that city. So we might need a solution that involves that. Either way, we need communities coming together, first of all, being aware of this, and secondly, doing everything they can to stop the actual development of these things on their, in their county, on their land, in their area. It's going to take a combined effort, but make no mistake about it, these things are coming to enslave us all. They're coming to build the technocratic prison and to power the smart cities, to power Agenda 2030. I'm going to leave it there. As always, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Please leave your comments, and all links are placed in the show notes below every time. If you like this video and feel that I've earned it, please like, share, subscribe, and follow. My work is on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, Brighteon, Substack, YouTube, and thefreedomarticles.com.